Once, Dulu, my closest friend, attempted to seduce my fiancé and sabotage our wedding by falsely claiming he had gotten her pregnant. In response, I had her husband publicly serve her with divorce papers during the ceremony. My best friend Samantha, who is 25, and I, at 24, have shared a close bond for nearly 8 years. From the moment we met, we clicked perfectly and have been inseparable ever since. We had our fair share of small disagreements early on, but nothing serious. However, over the past 4 or 5 years, we've had a few more significant arguments, with our latest clash being the most intense. Usually, Samantha is incredible, always supportive, kind, and an excellent listener. We both steer clear of holding grudges, and unlike me, who can easily get frustrated with people, I've never felt that way about her throughout our friendship. But there has always been one ongoing issue. When she drinks, she becomes overly flirty with any guy around, which really bothers me because she's in a committed relationship. Some of our mutual friends have even commented, "Isn't she married? Or does her husband know she behaves like that?" It's making her look unappealing, and it's not right. About 4 or 5 years ago, Samantha met her now husband Kyle. Their relationship started off rocky, but they eventually bought a house, got engaged, and married a couple of summers ago. Things took a dark turn when Samantha cheated on Kyle, not once, but twice, with 2 of my closest guy friends. These were guys I often hung out with while she was at my place, and the affairs happened while I was asleep in the same house, both times in the same summer. The first time she confessed, but the second time she tried to cover it up. I had a gut feeling something was wrong because she started acting strangely. So I confronted the guy involved, and he spilled everything, even showing me texts where she was practically begging him to keep it a secret. When I confronted Samantha, she tried to blame him, claiming he had taken advantage of her. But come on, 2 of my closest friends, both times when she was at my place, behind my back. It was a lot to take in. When I confronted Samantha, she tried to claim that he had taken advantage of her, but we had screenshots of their conversations where she clearly said it was consensual. I was furious. She had accused one of my good friends of something he didn't do. I told her she had put me in a difficult position, and I wasn't happy about it. These were 2 friends I saw all the time, and she had made it awkward for us to hang out since she cheated on her fiancé with one of them. I made it clear that it was wrong to accuse him when we had texts showing she wanted to hook up with him. She brushed it off, saying it wouldn't happen again, barely acknowledging her wrongdoing. Then she acted like nothing had happened, taking no responsibility. I stopped inviting her to hang out with most of my guy friends. It was tricky because she asked me to be her maid of honor, but her cheating on her fiancé was really bothering me. I felt bad for him but didn't want to betray her trust. I guess I wasn't thinking straight. She never mentioned the cheating again and seemed to act as if it never happened. It was like she disconnected from the reality of her actions. For some reason, she started trusting everyone who knew about the cheating to keep it a secret, and even invited my 2 guy friends to hang out with her and her husband. I know it might sound terrible, but at that point, I was set to be her maid of honor. I was trying to see the best in her and hoping the past was behind us. I genuinely wanted her to be happy, so I went along with her story that nothing had happened and tried to move on for the sake of our friendship and her wedding. I just hoped no one else would spill the beans. When we went out, she would still seek attention from guys when she drank, but it was mostly harmless stuff like flirting or dancing. As far as I could tell, nothing serious happened. The most she did was try to get one of my guy friends, the same one she had hooked up with, to stay the night with her again. I shut that down immediately, and nothing came of it. It was annoying though, because I ended up having to keep an eye on her when she was drunk to make sure she wouldn't actually cheat on her husband. It felt like I was parenting my best friend, trying to prevent her from making the same mistakes again. Fast forward to about 4 months ago, we went out for dinner and drinks, and things got pretty wild. We ended up at my place where I live with my boyfriend, Van, who I've been with for 2 years. At one point, Van was upstairs working out with the door closed, and I left Samantha sleeping in the guest room while I went down to the basement to watch TV and do some laundry. The next morning after Samantha had left, Van called me and said she had done something really strange that made him uncomfortable. I felt a knot in my stomach as I asked him what had happened. Apparently, while Van was working out in his boxers, Samantha just barged in without being invited and started chatting with him about his workouts. At first, he thought she might be looking for me, so he told her I was downstairs, but she brushed it off. She had recently lost some weight and began asking him, "Do you think I look good?" Then she lifted her shirt to show off her abs. According to Van, she even got on the floor to do some butt workouts, saying, "My ass looks so much better since I've been working out," and kept trying to get him to compliment her appearance. Van found the situation extremely awkward and didn't want to give Samantha the validation she seemed to be fishing for. He thought she was looking hard for compliments, so he suggested she go downstairs and find me. When he told me about it, I was livid with her. I knew she could get flirty when she was drunk, but I never imagined she'd behave that way with my boyfriend. First off, when you see someone in their boxers, wouldn't common sense tell you to leave the room immediately? And why would you even care about your best friend's boyfriend's opinion on your appearance or your butt? It made no sense at all. The next day, I decided to confront her by inviting her over when Van was out. As I started to explain what he had told me, she immediately began apologizing, saying she had no idea why she acted like that when she was drunk. I told her I needed space and that I didn't know how I could ever trust her again. However, the following day, she completely changed her story. She started saying my boyfriend was lying and exaggerating, and she thought I would see the conversation as harmless. But seriously, in what world is telling your best friend's boyfriend how nice your ass looks considered harmless? Van has always been an incredible partner, and he was afraid to tell me about what happened because he knew it would hurt me to see her behave that way toward him. He has no reason to lie, he's always been trustworthy. On the other hand, Samantha has a history of this kind of behavior, so my gut told me to believe my boyfriend. I was furious that she changed her story and wouldn't take any responsibility, especially since this wasn't the first time she'd acted this way when drunk. I even listed instances where she had done similar things with other taken or married guys, highlighting her pattern of behavior. Instead of owning up to it, she played the victim, saying I was rude for bringing up her past mistakes. She claimed she didn't know where to go from here because she now feels uncomfortable around my boyfriend. This infuriated me because she was trying to flip the situation around on him, even though she was the one who made him feel uncomfortable and put him in a difficult position. At that point, my emotions were all over the place, but one thing was clear. I didn't want to continue the friendship unless she acknowledged her problem, sought help, and tried to understand why she acted that way when she was drunk. I told her I was fed up with constantly feeling like I had to parent her to prevent her from cheating. It had become exhausting, and I expressed my frustration at her tendency to blame everyone but herself for our issues. I made it clear that this pattern had strained our friendship. The conversation turned into a heated exchange as I confronted her about her actions. I stressed that I couldn't tolerate the lack of accountability and needed her to understand the impact of her actions on our friendship. Samantha then began to blame me, saying I was a bad friend for not believing her side of the story. The exchange quickly grew tense, with her accusing me of being unsupportive and lacking understanding. As the blame shifting escalated, the tension reached a boiling point. Frustrated and hurt, she abruptly stormed off, declaring that she never wanted to speak to me again. It was a tough moment, given that she had been my best friend for 8 years, but her behavior was starting to negatively impact my boyfriend, and I couldn't ignore that. I accepted her decision and decided not to contact her after that. On a Saturday night at 2 a.m., while I was out with friends, her husband texted me, calling my boyfriend a scumbag for exaggerating. He implied that I was insecure because his wife had been working out, suggesting I was jealous of her new body. He accused me and my boyfriend of making a big deal out of nothing and told me I had been a bad friend to her. Just to clarify, I was always confident and secure in myself. I texted him back, maybe one day she will be honest with you and tell you what you don't know. He replied immediately, asking what I meant by that. I decided to ignore his message, as it wasn't my business anymore. The next day, unexpectedly, the doorbell rang. To my and my boyfriend's surprise, Kyle, my best friend's husband, was standing there. His arrival was a shock, but we welcomed him inside. With palpable tension in the room, Kyle had come to discuss the text I had sent him the previous night. He asked me to tell him the truth about why I had sent that text, and if there was any truth to it. I nodded slowly, and Kyle urged me to elaborate. I was nervous about revealing the full truth, as I felt uncomfortable detailing all the indiscretions Samantha had committed in the past. At that moment, my boyfriend stepped in and began to explain what had happened between him and Samantha. He described how uncomfortable he was when she entered the room without his permission while he was in his boxers, working out alone. She wouldn't leave him alone and kept trying to show him her abs. It made him extremely uncomfortable, and he had told me about it. Kyle looked shocked and told us that he had heard a completely different version of the incident from Samantha and had no idea that my boyfriend was in his boxers when she barged in. He looked embarrassed and awkwardly apologized, sitting there in disbelief. I suddenly felt sympathy for him. Here he was, trying to apologize for his wife's behavior, unaware of how much worse she had acted with other guys. I took a deep breath and decided to reveal the entire truth to him. I told Kyle about her past indiscretions, detailing the times she had cheated on him with other guys I was friends with. Kyle stared at me, stunned, and asked if I was sure Samantha had gone so far as to sleep with them. I nodded and showed him the screenshots I had kept, which proved that she had indeed slept with those men while married to him. Kyle, still in shock, asked me why I hadn't told him about these incidents sooner. It was a valid question, and I started to apologize for keeping these things a secret, explaining that I didn't want to betray her trust, given that she had been my best friend for all these years. I told him how every time we went out drinking, I had to keep an eye on her to prevent her from sleeping with someone else. The revelation hit him hard, and the weight of the truth was evident in his eyes. He expressed gratitude for my honesty but made it clear that he couldn't continue living with her after learning about these betrayals. I understood his perspective. He said he had a lot to think about and asked me not to tell Samantha anything about his visit. I agreed and nodded. He then thanked me for being upfront and left. It was a surreal and intense moment, realizing that my best friend's actions had led to the end of her marriage. After that tumultuous period, I never spoke to Samantha or Kyle again. From what I gathered, they appeared to still be together, suggesting their marriage hadn't crumbled despite the revelations. I decided to focus my energy and attention on my own life and career, consciously distancing myself from the complexities that had defined that chapter. Fast forward to just 2 months ago, a delightful twist unfolded in my life. My boyfriend decided to take our relationship to the next level. In a heartwarming and unexpected turn of events, he proposed to me, marking the beginning of a new and hopefully more serene chapter in our journey together. It was the happiest day of my life, and I shared our engagement pictures with my new ring on social media. My friends started congratulating me, and I assume some of our mutual friends might have informed Samantha as well. She called me multiple times in the middle of the night, and when I finally picked up, thinking she might be calling to congratulate me, she instead started yelling that I couldn't marry my fiancé. I was stunned by her outburst. She continued to scream, demanding that I break up with him because I couldn't have a happy ending after choosing him over her. My fiancé, who was sleeping beside me, woke up groggy and asked what was happening. I put her on speaker so he could hear how irrational she sounded. Samantha went on, calling my fiancé a piece of expletive and threatening to destroy his life for what he had done to our friendship. Fed up with her angry rant, I had had enough. I told her she was going too far, and I hung up, feeling irritated and unwilling to tolerate any more of her drama. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of angry messages from Samantha, all threatening to wreck our wedding. Feeling uneasy, I decided to call Kyle. He mentioned that she had been acting super agitated since the previous night, but he had no idea why. I filled him in on my engagement and what Samantha had yelled at me over the phone. I even sent him screenshots of her furious messages. After reviewing them, Kyle said this is why she's been so worked up since last night. Confused, I asked him what he meant. He explained that she had spent the night drinking by herself, mumbling about having to do something, but he hadn't realized it was connected to our conversation until now. Worried about her threats, I told him I couldn't take them lightly, considering her history, and there was a good chance she might show up at my wedding to cause trouble. This is when Kyle revealed that for the past few months, he had been secretly meeting with his lawyer and transferring his assets to his parents. He wanted to divorce Samantha, but before doing so, he needed to be prepared, knowing she would likely play dirty to get her hands on his money. Even though there was a chance she might never win any alimony due to her infidelity, he had proof of her cheating and didn't want to take any chances. Over the last 4 months, he had been rearranging his assets, waiting for the right moment to officially divorce her. He told me that if Samantha wanted to show up at my wedding and make a scene, he wanted to teach her a lesson by serving her the divorce papers. I was a bit uncomfortable with this plan at first, but my boyfriend, who had been listening to our conversation, agreed with Kyle. The plan would only be set in motion if Samantha showed up to our wedding to cause trouble. Last week, we had our small wedding at the church. It was a cozy gathering with close friends and family, and we felt incredibly happy exchanging our vows during the ceremony. I kept a lookout, still half expecting Samantha to appear and cause trouble, as she had threatened. The worry lingered, but Kyle was prepared. He had the divorce papers ready just in case she decided to show up and create a scene. As the priest asked if anyone had any objections to our union, a voice cut through the moment, making it clear that she had a problem. We all turned in shock, and to my disbelief, it was Samantha. She was standing in the middle of the aisle, clearly determined to disrupt our wedding. The joy and excitement turned into tense, awkward silence as all eyes were drawn to her. Samantha began accusing Van right there in front of everyone, shouting that he was the father of the child she was carrying. We looked at her, stunned, unable to believe how outrageous her lies were. She continued to yell that she was pregnant with his child and that she couldn't let him marry me. Everyone, including our parents, stared at us in shock. The atmosphere shifted from pure joy to complete chaos in seconds. My dad looked at me quizzically, trying to get confirmation. I closed my eyes in exasperation, knowing exactly what was about to unfold. Samantha looked at me with a smirk, clearly pleased with herself for the scene she was causing. Before she could say another word, Kyle got up from his seat. She seemed taken aback, perhaps not expecting to see him among the guests. He approached Samantha with a calm yet stern expression, clutching a small envelope in his hand. The tension in the room was palpable, and everyone watched in silence as Kyle handed her the envelope. Samantha looked bewildered, struggling to grasp what was happening. With precision, Kyle declared, "Samantha, you are the biggest liar and cheater I have known in my life, and you have left me with no choice. I have been preparing to divorce you these last few months because of the multiple affairs you've had. Here are the divorce papers." The room fell silent as Samantha opened the envelope, revealing the divorce papers. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Her plan to disrupt the wedding had backfired spectacularly. Kyle, maintaining his composure, began explaining to everyone present that he could no longer tolerate her lies and manipulations, and that she had been unfaithful throughout their marriage. He also announced that Samantha had a grudge against me and Van and had decided to interrupt our wedding to exact her revenge. My husband and I exchanged glances, feeling relieved that Kyle had revealed the truth. Samantha, now facing the consequences of her actions, seemed stunned. The guests, initially shocked by her accusation, whispered among themselves. Van took the opportunity to ask everyone to remain seated and then asked Kyle to escort Samantha out, who stood there looking embarrassed. Kyle nodded and escorted her out, while the ceremony continued as planned. As you can imagine, even though our wedding went smoothly, our guests couldn't stop talking about Samantha. Some had even recorded videos of the incident, and I've seen some of them circulating in various friends' chat groups. I feel a bit bad for Samantha, but I guess she got what she deserved. Everyone is as shocked as I am that she could go so low as to accuse my husband of being the father of her child. Since the incident, she has tried to call me multiple times, but all her attempts have been unsuccessful. From her messages, it's clear that she blames me for her divorce and resents me for not warning her about it. Update 1. Thank you all for your advice. You really helped me see some aspects of my best friend that I had tried to overlook for the sake of our friendship. I now realize that she was never truly a friend to me. She was extremely toxic and manipulative. My husband and I are currently on our honeymoon, so I don't want to spend time dealing with Samantha's drama. I have decided to cut ties with her completely this time. Despite her attempts to shift the blame onto me, I understand that her actions and lies were the true cause of her failed marriage. My parents, who had known Samantha for a long time since she was my best friend for 8 years, are also very disappointed in her. They had no idea she would go to such lengths to try to disrupt my wedding. She clearly tried to embarrass me and my boyfriend, but in the process, she ended up embarrassed when her husband handed her the divorce papers and exposed her lies. Since this incident, I've learned a valuable lesson about toxic friendships and the importance of surrounding myself with people who genuinely care for my well-being. My focus now is on building a happy and healthy life with my husband. The support from friends and family during the wedding incident has been incredibly reassuring, and I am grateful for the love and understanding they've shown. Update 2 It's been 2 months since my last update. Van and I have continued to stay in touch with Kyle, who has become a dear friend to us. Kyle is in the process of finalizing his divorce from Samantha, and as expected, she is fighting tooth and nail to secure alimony from him. Initially, she tried to convince Kyle that I had fabricated the stories about her affairs, but eventually she confessed the truth when he showed her the screenshots as proof. She then begged him for forgiveness, but Kyle was determined to stand his ground. As for Samantha's attempts to reach out to me, she alternated between pleading for forgiveness and hurling accusations, claiming that I ruined her life. I chose to maintain my distance and then blocked her on all forms of communication. It was crucial for my mental well-being to prioritize my own happiness and not let her negativity seep into my life. She then started messaging Van, who made it clear that he had had enough of her crazy behavior and would pursue legal action to get a restraining order against her. She continued. Since then, she hasn't tried to contact us. Some of our mutual friends have also stopped talking to Samantha after finding out about her antics and various affairs. It's clear now that Samantha can't hide behind blaming others, and I hope this time she learns a valuable lesson about owning her mistakes for once in her life. Update 3 It's been 7 months since my last update. The only reason I'm back on Reddit is to share some wonderful news. I'm pregnant with Van. I know my previous updates were filled with drama, but this time, it's nothing but pure joy and happiness. Van and I are over the moon about expecting our first child, and it's a wonderful new chapter in our lives. As for Samantha, she's become a distant memory. We continue to invite Kyle to visit us, and he is officially a divorced man. Fortunately for him, Samantha couldn't secure any alimony due to her multiple affairs, and he is finally free to live his life as he wishes. To those who offered advice and support throughout this roller coaster, thank you. Life is now filled with the excitement of starting a family, and we couldn't be more grateful for the love and positivity around us. Wishing everyone the best in their own journeys.